Hi, I'm Anthony, personal trainer, nutritionist, and volunteer with LoveCry.
And I'm Jesse from LoveCry, CEO, and I don't even know what
The big
to
cheese. He's the big cheese.
say.
So today we're going to talk about love. Should we put on some pink lights? Maybe light some incense, play some Barry White.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so for me, like, I just thought love was an important topic because I find most people, like, it's just something we say nowadays. It's not something that we actually do or know. And when it's a skill that we need to develop.
I really love espresso in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, love. I agree with Jesse 1,000%. And I think you're really the maestro to explain this topic. Like, it's so central, that I think that part of the gas that makes us go is love, would be the biggest thing that actually makes our life worth living is love. And I just remember some terrible, terrible experiments that were done with babies. And I think I mentioned this to you, where they took babies and they fed them, they cleaned them, they changed them, but they didn't pick them up, they didn't comfort them, they didn't love them. And these babies all died, and they had food, they were clean. Like I say, it was a ghastly, terrible experiment done with human babies, but they died because they didn't get love. And when you see a baby, a small child, like, it's just, we want to reach out to it, we want to hold it, we want to make it smile, we want to play with it, we want to love it. And so it's just so important for us. And I think as adults we kind of lose track of how important it is to us, but I think it's the most motivating, most driving thing in our whole life. And do we know what love is? Do we know what it is? Like, there's a song with Rod Stewart, Let Me Love You. Um, so what is this love? What is it? And there's different aspects to it. What do you think we're missing as a society when we talk about love? And what is the context? Like the parents loving the children, or boyfriend and girlfriend, or boyfriend, whatever, like loving each other. Like,
I
what?
think I think it's overall. Like love is an overall thing. It doesn't matter like whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, a stranger, an enemy. Love is love. It only changes in the way that you, I guess, the action of it. So like with a romantic partner, the love expression would be different than with the love of the child.
Mm.
But that the feeling of love is still the same. It's still the exact same feeling. So loving an enemy or loving someone that you respect and stuff like that. It's the same type of love where I find a lot of people think that if you love an enemy or you love someone that's hurt you, you're actually giving away your power. You're actually making them stronger, but yet they can't even feel that love.
Well, because like we have this maybe societal thing in our Western society where we think about, like, you love people that deserve it. Like, you give the homeless person $1, but they better say thank you and be grateful for it. Like, um, so and so I think that what we're calling love contains love, but also contains things that aren't love. And so, what is this love stuff? I mean, in Italian, one way of saying I love you is ti voglio bene. But ti voglio bene literally means I want good for you. That's one way to say you love someone, is I want good for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I think you're getting out of this universal love. Like, what actually is love is wanting good for someone, not wanting harm to someone. And that's something that, Jesus in the Bible tells us to love our enemy. And you're saying, like, people are like, well, that's dumb, because if I love my enemy, like, I'm supposed to crush my enemy
Yeah.
and then I'm going to be better off, right? Like, why would I love my enemy? And
Yeah.
we've talked about that in other videos, but it's about, like, who are you being? Who are you being right now? And what's your vibration? And how healthy are you? So, when you love your enemy, I guess it's something that's healthy for you, because their hatred, like, let's say your enemy's hating on you and you're loving them, then their hatred just goes like, it's like an umbrella,
Yeah.
like it can't go into
And
you and hook into your hatred, and then it builds
and I've
up into.
learned, sorry to
Go
cut you
ahead,
off,
go
but I
ahead.
learned something too where if you give hate back, you're strengthening their hate. And then they send hate back to you and it's bigger and
So it
harsher.
becomes like this perfect tennis game.
Yeah, yeah.
Where
And you're like, no, you keep that hate. No, you keep the hate.
right, right.
And so, but it gets bigger and bigger, and then it can evolve into like more difficult situations and circumstances.
And it gets more toxic,
Yeah,
right? Because
like
it's a poison for both of you.
yeah, like I could say on an instance, say when I lost my daughter, I was angry, resentful, jealous. You know, like like hurt
and
beyond belief.
and your ex was like lying about you, lying about the daughter, lying about everything, and manipulating everything.
And
And
so this kind of taught me what love was, because for me, love was something that just made you feel good, you know, and that's not necessarily the case. It does always make you feel good in the end, but learning love, going through those emotions, like it's not always pretty. You know, like everyone thinks that love is always supposed to feel good and be good, but it gives you good if you do love. Like it gives you this inner sense of feeling. But also, if you love someone, you can't really love them unless you love yourself. And if you know yourself, then you can love them. And then without that, we're stuck in this turmoil of, if I love you if you do this, I love you if you're like this. And for me, I learned to love my ex, who caused a lot of trauma in my life with my daughter. And
you directly. I mean, I just remember a story where she's going to town on you with her purse, and you're like wondering why someone doesn't call the police or intervene. You're just getting beat up by
yeah,
your,
there's
by
there
your
was there was
purse.
numerous times.
Like,
But even at those times, like I didn't even know how to handle it or deal with it or even explain myself. So that the love, that hatred was burying me. So the more I was angry, the more I hated her. The more I was like, like, you did this, you caused all this, you did these things, and it's like, yeah, she did do a lot of harmful things, but then, like, what do I learn out of this?
but when you were in that hating stage, your life was falling apart. I mean, that's why LoveCry pulled an intervention on you, because you were completely dysfunctional. Like,
Yeah, I was gone.
you were like, you
Uh,
were not functioning
my
in any way
my daughter
well.
was my heart at that point.
Mhm.
Like, that was the only thing I loved. That's the only thing I knew of love was from my daughter. I never felt that growing up. I never felt that in my family, which is another thing, which isn't that bad. But their family, they only know what they know and can only teach you those certain things. But then we think love is to understand that, to be like, okay, this is who they are, but it is who they are, but you could grow further. That's what the message is from our parents, from people above us, is that we could grow past them. We're supposed to be further from them. That's the evolution, in a
So
sense.
love them better than they loved you. And that takes growing, and that takes
Yeah.
spiritual strength.
And understanding, like, to understand people's pain. Because if you just look at it as like, oh, they did this to hurt me, without reflecting and seeing their life, what led them to these decisions, then of course you're going to be angry and hateful, and like, put them
Mhm.
down, like, how could you be like this? But then when you actually take into consideration their life, their circumstances, their teachings, what they've learned, what they know, and understand that, then it's more viable for love to grow, because now you're at a level with them to communicate, rather than, you're bad, I'm good.
Right.
This
You've
isn't
been a
follow
bad parent, you've
love.
been a bad girlfriend, you've been a bad whatever. You said that you can't love someone more than you love yourself. So, this
Mhm.
concept of self love, and that applies to our parents as well, right? Because how much love did they have for themselves? And
Yeah,
that would be the limit of what they would be able to give
yeah.
their children. And then when you say self love, I'm thinking of, a woman's going to go into a spa and get a manicure done. So self love, or you're going to buy yourself, I don't know, a donut or something like. So self love, you mean like that real love where you're accepting yourself and
Yeah,
knowing yourself and
it's
honoring
it's
yourself.
dealing with those negative aspects of the self that you don't want to know, that you don't want to face,
So
and
you're loving
accepting them.
yourself in spite of
Yeah.
your little parts that you don't want to see or
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
admit.
The parts that say they don't want to change, or hold to these things, and then that these things are there because of this anger or because of this hurt, but really they're only there to protect you in a sense, but it's also misperceived because the way you see love is different. So you have to, I kind of lost where I was going.
Well, about loving yourself, and what does that mean, and how do you do it? Like, and some people might not realize that there's parts of themselves that they're excluding and not looking at and not loving and
Yeah,
not accepting,
yeah.
right? So if they're doing that to themselves, then that's going to be, a loving limit for themselves, and that's going to be a loving limit for them towards other people.
And then it turns into anger, frustration towards people that are close to you, like friends, family, like things that are upsetting you. You turn on them, the easier ones to let it out on.
Okay, so part of yourself that you're not accepting if you see if some unconscious part of
Yeah.
you sees that in someone else, you hate it in
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
but you're actually hating yourself
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
because
way to kind of get rid of that feeling.
oh right, because I don't have to look at what I've got going on because I can just hate this guy, I can hate that girl,
Yeah, look what they're doing. Look
right?
at this, so it kind of distracts you from who you are as a sense, and then you could judge them, and now your ego is kind of like,
I'm
yeah,
better than them, you know.
yeah, that felt good,
They're an a-hole and I'm a good
Yeah,
guy, you know. So
exactly,
I'm real
exactly.
good, you know.
Um,
And it's not a contest. I mean, love is not a contest. Love is about loving someone, not like, well, you know, you gave to me, so now I'm going to give love to you because you gave to me. Like that's not what love is. Love is grace. Grace means to me, grace is you give something whether or not someone deserves it, and that's love.
and
You
yeah,
know, it's a fascinating.
love is something that we give. It's not something that we're supposed to get. We're not supposed to be trying to seek it from other individuals because they may not be able to love us as much as that we want them to. But the love that we're supposed to give others is what we're supposed to do, but we hold it.
And that's what we have control over because we
Yeah.
don't have control over how someone treats us. We have control over how they what we're putting out. But I mean, love is a miracle in a sense, right? Because I was sharing with you that the miraculous nature of love, because I was teaching a wellness class, I'm like, you know, if you have a chocolate bar and you take a piece off and share it with someone, now you have less chocolate, right? But if you have love and you share it with someone, now you actually, your love grows. So that's
Yeah.
the miraculous aspect of love. The more loving you are, the more you give real love, the more love you actually have.
And you don't need it from someone. It comes from the universe, it comes from around you, the energy that you feel. That's where it comes from. And if you could give more love and give more to, like, say, people that you hate or people that you feel that you're against or don't follow society or don't agree with this, if you could give them love, you might actually change something and prevent the things that you're actually so-called hating. Because if you hated it, wouldn't you do what it takes to prevent it?
So you're bringing light into the darkness instead of bringing more darkness into the darkness.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And I mean, I mentioned the Bible and I mentioned Jesus and stuff, and I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Bible thumper, but the Bible is, you know, cut and paste from the Torah in many ways, and the Torah comes from earlier texts, Babylonian, Egyptian, whatever you have. So that's why I think there's a timelessness in a lot of things in the Bible. The Bible says God is love. God is love. And you're talking about people saying, you know, I'm going to like put it out to the universe and like people are afraid to say love like that's I you know the spark of the universe I think is love, you know, things are done for love. And if you listen to people that have had near death experiences, almost universally they say they felt love just for no reason. I'm just bathed in love, you know, and they don't want to come back here. They're like, you know, you got to go back. Oh, I don't want to go back. Okay, you got to go back. And then you wake up on the operating table or wherever they wake up.
no,
So you think you were saying to me like people are hesitant to call love what it is, and like
yeah,
you know the universe,
because it
whatever.
causes pain.
Ah,
Love
very
causes
good
pain.
point. So love is fucking scary, right? Because if you love something, then it has more power to hurt you because you
Yeah,
love it, right?
yeah, it's fear. Yeah.
And if you love something and you lose it, now you're in pain. So there's risk. Love
But
takes
if
a
are
lot of
you? But
strength.
that's where are you really loving them? Because when you lose something that you love, you're not really losing them.
Mm.
That's another aspect that I think of too, is that we think that we're losing the love because they're gone. But yet with my daughter, she was gone. I never lost that love. I continued to send it to her. I can, because like if I felt bad, if I felt down, if I felt hurt and hatred, that's what she's gonna feel when she thinks of her dad or when she thinks of me. It's gonna be upset, hurt, jealousy. You did this to my life. My life is ruined, and now she's gonna feel responsible. So I learned from my mentor Angel to love, to work on feeling good about myself, teach myself to love these things because it's going to benefit my family, my daughter. If it wasn't for that aspect of things, I would have never got into this aspect of thinking, this way of life. And
So
it,
that was your teacher. That was your teacher.
yeah,
Was like your life going to shit,
yeah,
and these bad things happened to you and your daughter.
yeah, which made my life better. Like,
Well, they brought you to a
but
teacher.
but that's what I'm saying though. Like my life, like I grew up in like the projects. My dad was dealing with drugs and alcohol. My mom was dealing with that as well, having a hard time being there for herself, and all these things led to me to where to like so I was not supposed to graduate high school. I wasn't supposed to like I was just supposed to be like a number, a statistic, in and out of jail, a nobody.
This was according to who?
To CAS, the courts, like what was going on with my situation with my daughter. That this is the type of person I am.
Mm.
So that love within inside myself changed that viewpoint and changed that aspect of what they were thinking of me. I don't know if I changed points in here.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, that love of yourself was kind of what caused this growth of a new.
For Kyla, yeah, my love for Kyla,
Mhm.
that's what triggered that love for myself. Because for me to love her the way I needed to love myself so I could give it, so I
Right.
could send it to her. And I had birthdays without her where I would sing happy birthday, just so that she would have a good feeling instead of me sitting around like, I don't get to see her today. Like, oh, like this sucks. And that's on her birthday, So like, it feels like shit. It was the worst feeling in the fucking world. But you have to deal with it for your family. And then those things turn and they change inside you, and your heart does something. And it's not something you could explain. You can't learn these things. These things are just stuff that you could have guidance, you could have explanations, you could have things, but until you see it, until you open your eyes to see the darkness with the light, it I don't even know. It's something that like it's hard to say. Like it's I wouldn't wish it on people, but then it's like but then to not wish people this type of like feel of love
Growth.
within yourself and growth, yeah, because to love yourself is growth, like because you don't have those skills, so it's I don't even know how to explain it, but it's something that it's worth fighting for. It's worth pushing yourself to the limit no matter what you think, because there's always something that's important. There's something love. There's something that will pull you, and there's something that will always protect you if you're doing it for the right reason.
That's awesome. That's a
So,
very moving, very moving. So love is it's work in a way.
yeah,
It's some of the most important work you can do, and it's your base. So you have to have that base of working on yourself and learning to love yourself to be able to put love out into the world, and you get stronger at it as you do it. Like you do it, and it's an ongoing practice. You fall sometimes along the way, and you
yeah,
get up. Right?
yeah.
It's
Because business, even counseling, is like a business. Like they're not really there to try to make you feel better. They're there just to make you, I guess, make you feel better with every day how it is. There's no like push to change the status quo. It's kind of just like you're mentally ill. We accept you as this, but understand we know better than you. And that's the perception I've had.
so you're always going to be mentally ill, and you just keep leaning on us, and
Yeah,
that's the way it
yeah, like
goes.
you can't be better, you can't change. Like it's like something that this is just your personality. This is just who you are. And then if they look at your family history, say like my dad being an alcoholic, dealing with drugs, like you're automatically deemed this is where you're gonna go because that's your environment.
Right.
And they know these things, but they don't see that you could change these things with life skills. And then they don't teach you that to our kids. They don't teach us to any of these things. And then you find out, then you get hurt, and then you get broken, and then you have people like me coming on here being like, what is happening? And it just continues to go on because they continue to influence us with advertisements, with business. And then they tell you, oh, that's just business. It wasn't personal. And it's like, so that can neglect love because you've said money over trumps it. And that part does blows me because now people are in business just to hurt people in a way that's okay. And to me that's disturbing because now money is above love, and now you can't even fight against it because now it was just business. Like what's your problem? Like why are you going in there with an open heart? You should be shut off like me, and take it, you
Well,
know
speaking of counseling, I just keep getting reminded of Rogers, who said, as a therapist, if you care about your client, that's the number one thing that will determine success with your client, whether or not you really know what you're doing. And he also said, you can know what you're doing all the way, you can be double, triple PhD, but if you don't have that positive regard, which is a polite way of saying having love for your client. If you don't have that, you're not going to have a good outcome. It doesn't matter how good you are at your craft, right? And same with your friends and family, and you being in the world with your friends and family. If you have that love that you want good for someone, whether or not it comes back to you, you just want good for them. That that is a high vibration. A low vibration is like, I'm going to buy an expensive meal so I can get laid after. Um, so getting something in return. I mean, I used a funny example, but like I'm going to give something
To
because I
get
want to get
something.
something. So
Yeah.
that's not a high vibration. A high vibration is just giving.
Yeah, like
Um,
I'll love you if you love me, and then
right.
like if you do this wrong, then I'm not loving you
And
anymore.
that's just like emotional or physical mutual
It's
masturbation. Like you're not,
it's
you know,
control over one another.
yeah, control. Like I'm
Yeah,
expecting you to do this
yeah,
because
yeah.
I did that.
And if you don't do that, then I'm gonna treat you poorly. What? So you only love me if I'm your perfect being? Like that stuff I understand, and that's what makes us think that person loves us. But what really I think that we need to like open up our eyes to really see who we are and who the other person is, because if we do love them, they're not just these entities that provide for us
Right.
or make us feel good
Like
at these
I do
times.
ABC for you, and you're gonna do DEF for me.
Yeah. Sometimes you
Um,
have to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to withhold that pain to for them because they need that at that time.
right.
Not be like, oh, this is uncomfortable. This makes me feel bad. I don't want to be around you. It's to one aspect. If it's just constant being played on and played on and played on, I kind of understand that attitude, but it's still really not a loving attitude. You still got to work with it because that person's stuck in there for a reason. And maybe the way you're talking to them or approaching it isn't really mixing with them. So to hate them for it, then now you're judging that what you're saying is like the righteous thing or the most perfect thing that would fix anybody. And yet that minimizes who that person is and destroys love because now this person has to fit this box for you to give them love.
Right, right.
So it's
But I think part of the paradox that's possible is when you give without expecting in return, it makes people want to give back to you. Because you're giving in such a pure way, it makes people want to give back to
even
you.
if
But they might not always, and that's okay because they say a real gift is not an exchange. It's actually just a gift, right?
yeah,
Whether it's your time, your love, your benevolence, your good wishes, and loving your enemy. Someone's done you harm, and you're like, I hope they find their way, that they don't have to hurt someone the same way. I hope they find their way, that they don't have to, because it comes from a place of lack. Like I'm lacking, so I need to steal, emotionally or physically or whatever it is. So once you fill up your own gas tank by saying, I'm worthy of love just because I'm a child of God, or I'm a human being. I was born, um, and I'm as valid as anyone else. So just learn to love yourself more and more, and then you can be that more complete person that doesn't have to pull but can just give. And like I say, paradoxically, when you really really give, you tend to get back and you feel good. Like it's a high vibration.
but it's not. Yeah, you don't necessarily get it back from the same people.
Yeah, right, right.
That's the thing too, right? Like so, loving people, like even if they're hateful or being mean to you or degrading, being nice to them, it causes a shift. So like if we really hate them or they're acting like
You hate
assholes,
them back, and then you play this
yeah,
hate
yeah.
tennis.
So you have to give them love if you really want to see a shift because they probably haven't really experienced that from people in their life. And then the more we judge them, the more we like look down upon them, the more they feel like this is who they are. And then this is who they have to be, and everyone's going to see them this way, so may as well just act like this. And then like so it just continues to diminish love and sink it and squish it. And then we want to feel these great feelings, so we try it on all these different like aspects. So we'll make this perfect, or we'll make this like this, and it's like that's not gonna bring love to this world. Like love in this world is gonna come from our hearts.
From our individual actions,
Yeah.
one person at a time, one act at a time. And then I remember that story I mentioned before, like this guy was going to go on a shooting rampage, and this dog was very loving towards him, a random dog that he didn't know, and it changed his mind, and he didn't go on a shooting rampage, right?
Yeah. No,
Um,
I agree a
so,
lot with that.
and we all have love within us, and so if someone outside of us giving us real love, it's going to wake up something inside us.
And most times when people don't receive love, they'll push you. They'll test you because they don't believe that you're giving them love. Their own family didn't do it. Why is this stranger going to give a shit about me? So like they just push it away, and then you're like, they don't even care, and it's like what they think is gonna happen.
Right.
Show them real love. Like regardless if they shit on you, because they're shitting on you is them shitting on themselves, and you giving love will prosper your life and theirs. So it's kind of you could use it as, like it's kind of like a ego thing in a sense too. Like it's kind of like a self thing. You give
Right.
love, it benefits you.
Right. Right.
Like it's something that's very it's I don't even know what to
It's the
say.
nectar that we run on.
Yeah, like
It's the honey that keeps us going.
like I would never want to go back to the way I felt. Like even if it brought my daughter to have my daughter at that point, I don't think I would want that. Like I want it, but like where I would have been and where I am, they're completely different places, and without it, I wouldn't know these things. I wouldn't know my heart. I wouldn't know myself, and so it's kind of like a blessing. And then that like think about your enemy. If you turn their stuff into a blessing, how much are they gonna hate that? Like if they're wanting you to feel bad and you're like, hey, thank you, you taught me
You
something.
taught me about love.
Like you made me feel better. Thank you.
You made me stronger at
Yeah,
being loving.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Like
it's a test. Like it's
exactly.
easy to love someone who's being all great to you. Like that's pretty easy, right? So where you're gonna get stronger is loving your enemy, and you can often turn your enemy into your friend in that way. And like you're saying, it's not
I
always going to
remember I
work.
remember a story that you were saying too. I think it was in like a KKK member.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I saw this
Yeah,
guy on
yeah.
YouTube, and black dude, and he went to like a high-ranking KKK guy, and he got I think his secretary or someone to call and make a meeting. So the guy's like, yeah, let's have a meeting. So they meet, and the guy's like, this guy's black. Right? Like, why does this black dude want to have a meeting with me, a high ranking KKK dude? And they just talked. They just talked. He just shared who he was. And the KKK guy was like, you know what? White people are just fundamentally better than blacks. And he didn't argue with him and say, you piece of S, whatever. Like, he just heard him out. He just listened to him and he didn't attack him at all. And he just shared, like, hey, I like to play piano. I'm a jazz player. And I just, I experienced some racism growing up. I just wanted to understand you guys a little better. And they kept having meetings. And these guys got to be friends. A black dude and a KKK high ranking dude, they got to be friends. And the guy left the KKK. He left because of love. Like, would not, would this black dude who grew up with overt racism as a child in the South, would not he be justified saying, look at this asshole, like what a piece of whatever? He would have been justified. Who's going to call him wrong? But he's like, I'm going to befriend him. I'm going to give this guy acceptance. So accepting him the way he was. He didn't say, you shouldn't not like black people. We're just as good as you are. Like he didn't do any of that. He just accepted him. So this guy, like you said, like how much love did he have in his life? Like this guy's not fighting me at all. He's actually letting me speak. He's accepting what I'm saying. He's not going against me. And then over time, it softened him and it brought out the love that he had inside himself.
Yeah.
But we put armor on it and we put hate on it and we put carpets on it. But it's there. You can tune into it.
And it doesn't take into consideration his teachings because he was probably raised like this, like forced to
Right.
believe these
Yeah.
things.
What did his parents think?
You know?
What did his friends think when what did the KKK guy's friends think when he was a teenager growing up? What was around him?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
did like so you just need someone to like acceptance is part of love.
It's kind of like
accepting.
it's kind of like a teaching. It's like education. Like
Mhm.
like these people need to learn. Like everyone needs to learn. And so that's just an example of like, sometimes people aren't necessarily hateful. That's just what they've been programmed to think. And if you relate with them and communicate with them, there's a chance for a shift. You might not get a shift, but there will be a shift somewhere if there's no hate involved. Regardless of this person or not, they will be shifted. I guarantee you that. The energetic level.
Like a profound positive shift. But like
Yeah.
if the black dude had attacked him,
Yeah.
then the white guy would have been like, yeah, look at how these black people are, like so
Yeah.
he would have just reinforced
Yeah,
the
yeah,
problems.
exactly. And then
Right.
he'd raise his kids to think the same thing. And then now by
I
that,
once tried to talk to a black guy. You
yeah,
know what happened? Like, oh my god,
yeah,
so
yeah, exactly. And then
and
so that's important to look at aspects of where they got these teachings. Why are they thinking like this? And to hate, it doesn't change anything. Hate begets hate. Like it doesn't change. You need
Yeah.
to work with love, because understanding someone helps them understand you.
Understanding them and accepting them. It
Yeah.
helps them accept themselves, and it helps them look at themselves. And so when this black dude is presenting his talk, he held up the KKK robe. He said, my friend gave me this robe. He's like, I don't need this anymore. And he gave it to him as a keepsake. I don't know.
Oh, it's a little
Maybe I'll put it
scary.
on for Halloween. I don't know. So that's a wonderful example of loving your enemy. And look what happened, and
Yeah.
what is the effect going to be on that white man's family? What is the effect going to be on that white man's social circle? What is the effect going to be on that white man? And not only that, what is the effect going to be on the black dude who can be like, I gave so much love, and he's a higher vibration guy because of the work that he did. Was it easy to do that? Was it easy to meet with a KKK guy and not know what was going to happen? Like, he came with a bodyguard to meet him, and then he found out he's black. But he didn't run away. He's like, okay, what the hell do you want? And they had this long meeting.
Right. And
So it
then
was a really cool story.
it's kind of like the one with Jack Cornfield too, with the, like we've mentioned a few times, with the mother and the child, her child was murdered by a gang member for no reason whatsoever,
Another child,
to get
another child.
initiated into the gang. And she worked on it so that she could forgive him, worked with him, taught him things, raised him as her own son.
Once he got out of jail,
Yeah, like I figured, didn't get all the details, but in then change, like, so now this boy now will not hurt another soul. He doesn't want, like, he feels loved, he has a life, he's moving forward. So it kind of changed the pattern. But if she was just hateful, resentful, this child would have came out of prison hardened heart, hard and everything, without a care in the world again, and most likely would end up doing the same things. And so it's that love, it's deep, when, because it's hard to see love when we're hating someone. But these are good examples: the KKK and someone's son being murdered, and being able to forgive and love that person so that it doesn't happen again.
and it doesn't have to be murder. It doesn't have to be a KKK
Yeah,
example of racism. Like, also in the Bible, like, someone's going to church, and they're like, but you have an argument with your brother, so go make things right with your brother. Don't go to church and things ain't right with your brother.
yeah,
Right? So it could be your actual fraternal brother, or it could be
yeah,
a friend or whoever you haven't spoken to for 20 years. Like, I remember I didn't talk to my dad for a long time, and I had a big shift, and I just called him, and I just said some simple words, like, I just called to see how you're doing, and I almost dropped the phone. Like, I told my friends, I almost dropped the phone because my dad talked to me in a way that he'd never talked to me like this ever before. Not because of anything I said, but because I had a shift inside myself. And so, have that shift inside yourself, come from a place of love, and you might be surprised at how people respond to you.
yeah. I agree, because even with my mommy, the other relationships too, like, there's you don't get what you want from them. They're gonna be who they are, and you have to learn to accept that. And that's what part of growing up and being a child is to learn to accept your parents, learn to work with those qualities, and understand that they don't have all these things. I kind of lost my point, so.
No, it's great. I mean, with the family stuff, I mean, it's part of love, and it's part of mature love. It's part
Yeah,
of adult love, that I'm going to accept my parent or my brother or my sister. I'm going to accept them for what they are. And the paradox is, when you accept these negative qualities, that's probably the best shot you have at dissolving these negative qualities or
yeah,
changing them. When you accept them and say, I'm not trying to change you. I'm just loving on you. I want you to feel good. I want to feel good around you. I want us to be cool. Like, that's all love.
yeah, yeah. Because, like, I find with love, it's almost love almost equals suffering in a sense, because to love you need to be able to deal with suffering, and then so people equate it with suffering. So love is bad because it makes you suffer, but yet no, love changes you. It shifts you. It prunes you in a sense. It shapes you. It takes away the leaves, the dead leaves, and so that you could grow better, grow easier, fulfill yourself. It's yeah,
Or refining metal, like you beat it, you heat it,
yeah,
but you're refining it into a better piece of metal,
yeah. That's
you
that's
know?
exactly what the suffering is meant to do. But instead, because we've been colonized by all these things that we think it should be this way, and we should have this, and we should have that, and then we go buy something to make ourselves feel better. So it's
Yeah, self love is about getting, like I said in the beginning, getting a manicure, buying a nice
yeah,
car, and that's not self love. You can give yourself a treat. That might be treating yourself well, but self love is doing that work that we talked about doing with your enemy. Do it with the enemy inside as
yeah.
well. Look inside. We all have bad traits, negative traits. Accept them. Like I accept myself as a whole human being,
And
and I'm gonna
because
love myself.
and if you change, don't expect others to change. That one was a big one for me.
uh,
Like it was hard. Because you're being a
you're
better
seeing
person.
more, you're understanding
Yeah,
more, and you want them to all get it.
yeah, and you're being a better person, and you're like, well, why you see me this way, and da da da. And you're trying to prove to them that you're this better person, and then it will never work because they're never gonna see you that way because they're trying to make you feel down because of their own judgments. So you have to learn to be okay with inside yourself for that aspect because they're not always gonna give you that kind of gratification for what you're doing. They're not even going to
That
notice it.
acknowledgement,
Yes,
right?
yes. They're not
Because
even going to acknowledge notice it because you're now on a different vibration level.
mhm.
So the love you're sending, they don't see it. They just see the same old you because they're thinking the same old way. So no matter how you could become God, and they will just still look at you like, man, whatever. It's because of the way they're thinking.
So it's nice to have some kind of support, like you had Angel as a support, and now that Angel has
Yeah,
passed, you have
that's a
other
good thing.
mentors.
I was gonna say that's a good thing because I was gonna say like sometimes when you go through these situations that are hard or changing and suffering, it's good to have. For what I found the best was kind of like yoga movement, like connecting to yourself and breath, and also like a positive, like a loving kindness meditation, something that helps you deal with like the upset because after those things you're upset, and no matter our mind
Oh, after
loves,
something bad happens
yeah,
with, okay,
yeah,
something troublesome or bad,
yeah, our mind loves to like
they
make
were
it.
they're so wrong and
Yeah,
I'm so right, and I'm, if everyone was like me, the world would be so great. But so this loving meditation, so you like a
yeah, like
guided
loving kindness. Yeah,
like a
something.
guided
Yeah, a
meditation.
guided one
Okay.
because if you're just sitting there with like meditate on like like oh breath, you're gonna be like
Right.
So
So
like
you need a little
having
guide, a
yeah
little.
like the forgiveness one I found was very strong for me in those points because it's a lot of pain and forgiveness kind of helps you focus on that pain and see it and understand it from different avenues rather than just be hurt. So that aspect, when you brought that up, I thought that was good because those things are important because the shit ain't easy. It's hard when
We
you're
need
you're
support. We
shifting.
need a
Yeah,
little bit of
yeah.
help and support. Yeah.
So like Jack Cornfield, has a lot of great ones, and there's even like I don't know what the meditation is called, but it's you do a meditation, you get into the argument, or the situation, and you have it get as bad as it gets. You remember all these things, and then you hear a knock at the door, and then you go to the door, it's as a mentor, a leader, someone that you look up to, and then you exchange clothes,
uh,
and then they go into the situation, and then you watch
how they
how they
handle it.
handle the
Right. So
situation.
you imagine,
Yeah,
someone that
yeah,
you look up to, whether it's, I don't know, Mother Teresa or
yeah,
Jesus Christ or Buddha, or whoever
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Whoever you
a
see,
grandparent, whoever
yeah,
you see as like
exactly.
a
As a
really high
teacher, a
vibration
mentor,
person.
yeah,
Yeah.
anyone like that. And then so from that, and then they do all these things and then you watch this, and then then after that you say thank you. You bring them to the door. You exchange clothes again, and then at the end they give you a little gift. But it's a gift that comes from you, like, but it's not comes from you, but it's a gift that comes, but it's a like a spiritual gift.
Uh,
It's an energetic gift, and it's a message. And so they say they reach under their robe or whatever they're wearing, and they pull it out and they give it to you, and that's just a message just for you.
mm,
Those that type of meditation I found was very helpful because you get to like kind of see your viewpoint on how you dealt with it, and then you kind of looking at it from a perspective that you don't think you can do,
mm.
and this person's better than you, or like they're more evolved, so you let that, and then they get in, and you're watching this love, and and you're like, it kind of settles you down, and then they teach you something, and you kind of like get an understanding of, oh, I shouldn't be this like the anger. I'm not really that angry. I'm more angry at this and why I let it happen and how I got into the situation. So I'm more mad at myself than anything.
So we'll
Uh,
tune into that, So part of the anger we're feeling, because you talked a lot before about externalizing. So I'm going to hate that person, so I don't have to look at myself. So part of the anger about ourselves could be like, I let myself down. I let this situation happen, and I went along with this situation that hurt me
I
in
believed
in
it.
in spite of feel like I could have woken up earlier and changed the course of it. So we have this self blame going on too. So that's part of our self love. That I'm like, okay, I could have handled that better. I could have done that way better. I really messed up, and still accepting and loving yourself. Like it's okay, right? Because if we think of that little voice inside, like a lot of people are calling themselves asshole, shithead, dummy. Like we call ourselves these things. This is normal, but it's pathological.
Yeah.
It's normal, but it's not good. So look at your self-talk. So people that are very harsh with other people will tend to be very harsh internally. Like, they burnt their eggs and they're calling themselves a useless piece of shit because they burnt. Like, we call ourselves these names, right? So be gentle with yourself, and that's part of love too, is to let yourself make mistakes, like a gentle parent, like a loving parent. A loving parent doesn't take their kid and beat the crap out of them because they broke a glass, right? Like they just like, oh, it's too bad you broke that glass, honey. We'll
Well,
be more
depends on the
careful.
parent, I guess.
If you're a loving parent, be more careful, please. We'll clean it up together, no problem. We'll buy another glass, and there you go, right? So yeah, that love to yourself and love to other people takes many forms.
Yeah. So but it's a process that is, um,
It can make your life worth living.
yeah, like it makes every day worth living. Like you could have like nothing and have love, and love trumps everything. Like you don't need to have all these things,
Hmm.
like I used to think the same thing. I like, oh, if I wore this or I wore that, like
Right.
people think of
If
me
I have a fat
better.
chain,
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
got the
yeah.
designer clothes,
Yeah, no, and so you're always trying to get these expensive things and stuff because you think they're gonna judge you this way or that way, and
well, because we're looking for love, right? So if I wear the right chain or the right clothes, then people are going to look at me a certain way. But really, deep down, what do we want? We want that love from other people. We want other people to look at us and say, "Look at that guy's car. Like I love that guy, right?" But it's that like that
yeah,
doesn't bring us love.
we want to be able to feel free around people, which is hard to do in society, even when it comes to counseling. I remember my counselor asked me, are you in a good place? Like, and it's like, and she was talking because like I talked to her at like my physio office, like outside, like, and it's like she's like most people feel uncomfortable, like sharing those things in a space which I think is problematic. It's kind of like a suppression of love. We can't be who we are for everyone because of what we're going to think and do and say to each other.
So if you only are presenting parts of yourself that you think are acceptable, then you're not loving yourself because you're like, well, these other parts of me are not acceptable, so I'm not going to share them with anyone, and I'm not even going to look at them myself. But that's self-hatred. That's not acceptance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. You're trying to stifle something down to be something else that you're not because someone else told you to. And then now you feel bad to be yourself, so you're trying to change, but that doesn't ever feel good. And then so you're constantly chasing this feeling, trying to have the family, trying to have the perfect this, trying to have the perfect that. But yet, all it is just slow down and bring your heart. Like you'll notice severe change. Like it's not some kind of like, I'm not telling you some like woo, like do this and then you're healed. Like I'm just telling you like be with your heart, and that's you will find a lot more answers from here than here. And that's where the love comes from. Here we try to create a love. Here is where love is made. We try to hide and create and like pretend we're, oh, look, I'm the best loving person, or I'm this person, or I'm that person, but yet it never comes from the heart. The feelings and the words have to match. If you're just saying things and your feelings don't match, then you're lying to the people, and that's a
And
serious.
possibly to yourself too.
Oh, definitely to yourself. If you you can't be lying to the people, they're lying to yourself, because that would take, you'd have to, like, it's like loving someone. You can't really love them if you don't love yourself. It's like lying. So if you're lying to them, you're lying. If you're lying to yourself, you're lying to
What
them. You're
happens
lying to
outside
them.
is
Yeah,
going to happen
God.
inside, and vice versa.
I'm so oh shit. All right. All right, that was, yeah. Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you, Jesse,
listening.
for sharing,
Yeah,
and we'll
of
talk to you guys
course. Yeah,
soon.
thank you.